if you're running any kind of online business right now, whether it's an agency, an info product company, coaching, anything essentially where you have a team doing work behind the scenes and you feel like you can take on more clients without more of your time disappearing, then this video is going to fix exactly that. My name is Yusuf and I've helped scale businesses to over $20 million in revenue, and I haven't personally touched fulfillment in months. And the quality for going out to our clients is better than when I was doing it myself. Now, the reason most people stay stuck doing all the work isn't because they can't find good hires. It's because they're missing a system that makes hiring actually work. And once you see it, you'll wonder why nobody online on YouTube has ever told you this earlier. Now, I'm going to walk you through the 3 steps to set this up. It takes about 10 minutes to implement, so let's get into it. Now, look, you've tried hiring before. You brought someone on, you gave them the work, and the output that came back was maybe at around 60% of what you would have done instead of them. So you either redid the work yourself, which kind of defeated the whole purpose of delegating to someone else, or you sent it to the client and the quality significantly dropped. And so after a few rounds of that, you pulled everything back in-house and back to doing it yourself. You went back to being the bottleneck yourself. And now you're sitting there thinking that the problem is that you just can't find good people to hire. But that's not the problem. The hire didn't fail. The structure that you had failed. You basically handed one person a pile of tasks with no oversight. You basically think that your SOPs on Notion are the biggest fix or the best thing ever, and they're going to watch all of the looms that you set out there. No, that is not the case. When you do that, there's no capacity limits. There's no system for catching mistakes before they reach the client or before they even happen. That's kind of like giving someone a car with no steering wheel and then blaming them when they crash. Now, there is a way to structure your team where the client stays high and your involvement drops to near zero, and you always know exactly how many clients you can handle. So let me show you. So whatever you sell, essentially your fulfillment breaks down into sections, and most people have never actually mapped this out. They kind of just have a vague sense of stuff that needs to get done for the clients, and that's essentially the first problem. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to open up a doc and I want you to write every single thing that happens between from when a client signs to then them receiving their deliverables, right? And this applies to you whether you're running an agency or an info product, whatever it is, right? You need to write down everything. I don't want you to miss a single step, right? I don't want you to skip anything. You need to go and map everything out till they get the final output. Now, once you've done that, I want you to group those tasks by skill set. Each group essentially becomes a role. And so each set of roles becomes what I call a cluster. So if, let's just say, you're running ads for a client, the sections that you're breaking it down, it might be that you have to, let's just say, have copywriting related tasks. And then you may need some creative production tasks. So whether it's, creating the creative, like the actual video, so that might require video editors and whatnot, or you might need like a creative actual person that writes and creates the graphic design. And then maybe on top of that, you need some sort of campaign management. And so essentially, if we want to create a cluster, so remember up here, we basically said that tasks get separated into roles, and then these roles get separated into clusters. So if we wanted to create a cluster from this set of things of running ads, essentially we would have one copywriter and then one sort of creative person, whether it's a video editor or a graphic designer, and then one media buyer. And so if, let's just say, you're selling a course with done for you implementation, your sections might be, someone who's responsible for onboarding, someone who's responsible for support, and then another person who is responsible for community management. So your cluster is an onboarding specialist, a support person, and then one community manager. If, let's just say, you do coaching with some deliverables attached, it might be, someone who's responsible for strategy, someone who's responsible for content creation, and then maybe project management. The point is this: once you can see your fulfillment as a set of roles instead of just one big blob of work, you can start building around it instead of just drowning in it. Now, this next step is what separates people who actually remove themselves from fulfillment and people who just trade doing the work for just managing the work. If usually this is what happens, if you hire a copywriter or a media buyer or a creative person, you're the one who's managing all 3 of those. So here's you, and then here's the copywriter, here's the creative person, and then here is kind of your ads manager guy, your campaign manager, right? So instead of you essentially trying to free up your time, you haven't freed up your time. You just swapped one job for another. So instead of you doing all 3 of these things, you're now managing all of these people, right? So instead of you producing the deliverables, you're in Slack all day just reviewing the different deliverables that are going. And so before you hire anyone on the ground level, which is these guys over here, you need to hire someone above them. And that person is called an executive. Now, this person essentially directly reports to you. And so everyone else that is under them, so the copywriter reports to them, the creative person reports to them, the campaign manager reports to them. This is kind of known as a sort of like operations manager in some businesses, but this person needs to be treated like an executive. And so one conversation a day with this person, maybe once a week, once everything is running smoothly, and they handle everything underneath. Now, I know you're thinking, well, Yusuf, I don't have anyone that I can trust enough for that kind of role. Well, listen, you don't need a genie. So you need someone who understands your standards, who knows your clients, and is good at managing people. Usually it's whoever you've been with the longest. And so they already know how you operate. They already catch mistakes before you do. And that person isn't and shouldn't be your next fulfillment hire. They shouldn't be out here like basically slaving away at your fulfillment. They should genuinely operate as your executive. Now, if you genuinely don't have that person yet, then that should be essentially your first hire. That should be the first person that you should be focusing on, working on and working with, and actually helping them grow and nurturing them so that they can handle the type of work if you're generally trying to scale to 100K, 200K months. I know people who are literally doing 100K a month and they're stuck doing all the fulfillment themselves when they could easily handle like an extra 10, 20 clients if they just implement this next system that I'm going to tell you. Now, here's where it gets really powerful, because once you have that executive layer that I just told you about, you can do something that makes scaling completely predictable. So essentially, you should know how many clients each one of these guys can handle. So you know your copywriter can maybe handle 2 or 3 clients. So like, let's just draw some dudes over here and they're going to be our clients, right? So same thing with the creative guys. They can handle 1 or 2 clients. Maybe your campaign manager can handle, 3 or 4 different clients. So we'll just draw different people here for your campaign manager. And so these blue guys, I just colored them in blue to help you guys kind of understand who's working with you and who's a client. So the clients are in white, the team members are in blue. These group of guys, because we know exactly how many clients they can handle, these group of guys are known as one cluster. So I'm going to go ahead over here, draw them all together, happy. This guy had no arms, so let's make sure that he has arms. So this group of guys is known as a cluster. And so you now know that one group of cluster is, let's just say, equal to 2 or 3 clients maximum, right? So you know that these guys can only handle 2 to 3 clients. The worst mistake that you can do is overload these people, right? That's like the worst mistake that you can do, right? Now, this one cluster, that is managed by your executive. And so what happens is, this is what most people happen. Like, let's just say you add one more client comes along. Well, most people are like, okay, well, 3 isn't really like that big of a number, than 4, it doesn't really matter. It's just one more client. I can just add it over to my already existing team. I'll just let the copywriter handle it. It's fine. Like, he can handle the webinar launch for this guy, or he can do this extra deliverable for this guy. When in reality, this is how your systems collapse. And so what you need to do is, once client number 4 comes along, well, it's super simple. You just simply add a second cluster, right? So that's cluster number 2, right? It's really simple as that. And so then eventually, as you're filling up the slots that you're having, you're going to have more clients. So then cluster number 2 is eventually also going to be filled up. So that when cluster number 2 eventually fills up, well, you already know what ends up happening, right? When client number 7 comes along, well, you just hire cluster number 7. It's the same exact rules that you had for cluster 1 and number 2 with the same exact structure, because these 2 guys are still relaying to your executive, right? So you end up basically having 0 work from your end, because your executive is handling really the high level tasks and overseeing both groups, right? And essentially that's like the whole structure. That's how it works. And so you know exactly who to hire, what exactly it costs, and exactly how fast you can onboard these people. And this is where it gets really clean, because now you can do something that 95% of business owners have never done, which is you can predict entire cost structure before you sign a single new client. So let's just say one cluster is costing you, let's just say $3,000 a month. And so if that cluster is handling 3 clients and each client is paying you $3K, which means this cluster of hires is bringing you $9,000 in revenue. And so you can predictably kind of analyze the costs and the margins, and you can now tell that you have a 66% margin of profit that you're operating from with your team hires. It's predictable, and you can kind of predict it, and you can operate every single month the same way. And so it works the same exact way for info products. If your done for you cluster, let's just say, costs you $2,500 a month, and each client is paying you $2K, then 3 clients is $6K in revenue on a $2,500 cost. Well, you know exactly your margin cost before you sign the contract. And the best part about all of this, and this is the thing that most people kind of neglect, is your cost of acquisition. So this is something very important that most people kind of neglect. It's your cost of acquiring a customer. And so when you know exactly how much it costs you to run the offer, because most people kind of have variable costs, they don't know how many people exactly they need to hire, how many people they need to have, let's just say, working full-time for them, or as a contractor basis. When you know how much this stuff costs, and you know that, let's just say, your revenue, that's your profit so far that's coming in, is $6,000. So you know that, for you to have healthy margins, you know that you're only able to spend, let's just say, an average of $1,000 of acquiring each customer per month, or like, let's just say you have the LTV, you have all that sort of stuff. So you're able to calculate exactly how much you're willing to spend, whether it's on ads or content or all of that stuff. You know exactly how much you need to spend, and you're not overspending. So what ends up happening is your costs are going down, your margins are going up, because you know exactly how much you should charge, how much you should spend to acquire a customer, and it's overall a big system. And so So with that, essentially you've gone from, hey, I hope I can handle a few more clients this month, to I know exactly what it takes once I have new clients coming up. So you just freed up hours of your day. The question is, are you actually going to use that time on things that move the needle? Because most people that watch this video won't do that. They'll fill their time up with low leverage tasks and end up just as stuck. There's a reason why your calendar might be the thing keeping you under $1 million a year, and it's probably something that you've never thought about. I made a video breaking down exactly how to fix that, so click right here and I'll see you there.